Hi, this is your host, Kristen Howe, and I would like to welcome you to today's call. Today, I am so pleased to welcome Burt Goldman. Now, Burt Goldman, fondly known to his fans as the American Monk, is a world-renowned meditation master, spiritual coach, and mind power expert. Burt has studied personal growth and spirituality for over 5 decades under some of the world's greatest spiritual masters, like Paramahansa Yogananda and Jose Silva. As if that's not enough, he is also an accomplished author, artist, photographer, and musician. For more than 50 years, Burt has been improving the lives of people who want to live better. His techniques are so amazingly effective, he calls them the lazy man's way to achieve enlightenment. Burt Goldman now lives in the LA area and is living an extraordinary life well into his 80s. Now, today on the call, you'll discover how you can manifest a promotion at work, become financially free, master a musical instrument, or even find your soulmate. Burt will reveal the history of quantum jumping, how he discovered it, and how it works. In addition to that, he will discuss how quantum jumping allows us to actually contact our twin selves from alternate universes who have already manifested their destiny and have already revealed their true potential in whatever form or manner you can imagine. Burt will also share some new twists that could make quantum jumping one of the most powerful personal development techniques you have ever experienced. So, Burt, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the call.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, Kristen.
It's so great to have you here, and I would love if you could start off by sharing some of your story, some of the turnarounds or big moments that caused you to actually be living in the success that you have now.
I've been doing this, let's say, before I knew what I was doing. One day I picked up a book on physics that was simple enough for me to understand. I'm not a physicist, nor do I know the first thing about it. Mathematics is kind of a mystery to me, outside of multiplication, division, et cetera, et cetera. But I picked up this book, and one thing that caught my attention, the quantum physicist felt that there is an infinity of universes. Now, one of the things that I've been teaching for the last 50-odd years is infinity. And that word infinity caught me because it's something that no one can understand. Infinity is virtually non-ending. Whatever you can imagine, there's more. So my definition of infinity is simply one more. Whatever it is that you can imagine, one more. If the ocean were made out of ink, and you had a pen and you wrote a number, and you used the whole ocean of ink, you still would not have infinity. Now, you can't even imagine a number like that. Infinity is something that I was working on and had been teaching other people, even though I didn't know that much about it, because you can't know anything about it. But what the physicists say, and many of them believe, is that if there is an infinity of universes, and apparently this is their concept, then whatever you can imagine is in one of those universes. An infinity of universes, meaning that the way they liken them to bubbles, an ocean of bubbles, let's say, an endless sea of bubbles, every size, some the size of your fist, some the size of a country. Endless bubbles, each bubble containing a universe. Now, you can't leave your own bubble, of course. That's the idea of a bubble. But in one of those bubbles, you're a king. In another one, you're a queen. In another one, you're the wealthiest person on the planet. In another one, you're homeless. In another one, you're a great artist. In another one, you're a musician. Whatever you can imagine, you are in that other universe. This is infinity. This is what the quantum physicists say. Now, when I read that, I found it very intriguing because I've always worked with the mind, and with the mind, you can bypass the laws of physics. As an example, we all know that the speed of light keeps us to a particular let's say, a particular place where we can never extend it. We can't ever reach our nearest neighbors. Let's say if we discovered a planet in another solar system that's 1,000 light years away, this is light years. We can never reach it because we can never reach light speed physically. This is a law of physics. However, mentally, I can imagine myself on another planet in an instant. So I'm not bound by the laws of physics mentally. So how can I take this physical conception of infinite universes and utilize it in the things that I've been teaching mentally? I thought, well, if that's true, if I am a great artist in another universe, I wonder if I could reach that me. I can't reach that me physically, of course, but mentally I can by using the daydreaming mechanism. Everybody daydreams, so everybody does this at one time or another or constantly all the time. Everybody daydreams. And if you don't daydream, you dream. So you're using that particular mechanism. So I thought, I wonder if I could use that mechanism to learn how to do something. The first time I did it to see if I could write. I started writing. I was never a writer. When I went to high school, the Second World War was on, and all the boys were going right into the Army as soon as they graduated. Quite honestly, none of us paid any attention because we figured, we're going to go fight. Some of us are going to come home. Some of us aren't. So my knowledge of where a semicolon went was negligible, to say the least. I wasn't even sure about commas. But when I went to a doppelganger, as we call a twin self in another universe, who could write, I got advice from that person. Now, at first, I thought, I'm just kind of daydreaming this thing. But then I wrote a chapter. And some of the advice that I got, incidentally, was I heard vaguely, can you write a sentence? And I said, well, yeah, sure, of course, anybody can write a sentence. Well, then you can write a book. I said, what do you mean? Sentence isn't a book. What is a book? Well, I don't know. What is a book? A book is a bunch of chapters, right? Yes. Well, what's a chapter? Well, I don't know. What is a chapter? Is a bunch of paragraphs. What's a paragraph? Well, I'm not sure. A paragraph is a few sentences. You just said you can write a sentence. So if you can write a sentence, you can write a book. All you got to do is write a lot of sentences. I started writing a lot of sentences. Next thing I know, I wrote a book and then another book. And before I got through, I wrote 11 of them. Went into 11 different languages.
Wow.
Suddenly I was a writer. Well, now I know where semicolons go. But it all started that way. I did it again with singing. I wasn't a singer. I can't hold a note. I was always off base with respect to the key. And yet when I visited my doppelganger as a singer, suddenly I started singing, and I've been offered jobs. Not lately. I mean, in my 80s now. Nobody starts a singing career in their 80s. But when I started singing, I was in my 50s, and I was offered a lot of work, and I was teaching at the time. I didn't care to do that. Now, I didn't know anything about quantum jumping at the time. I was just doing this kind of off the cuff. And then one day, I went into a formal quantum jump, the first quantum jump, you might say, that I took where I knew what I was doing. I didn't call it quantum jump at the time. I called it parallel dimension quest. In other words, I was seeking myself in another parallel dimension. And what I did, I already knew what I was doing from the singing and the writing. I was teaching a class in creativity in San Diego. And I was telling them about the quantum jump. I'm going to call it quantum jumping because that's what I call it now. And I was telling them that you can jump to another universe and you can get the energy of that particular person and bring it back with you. That doesn't mean that you'll become the world's greatest pianist because you won't have the dexterity. but you will have the rhythm of that person, and it'll be easier for you to learn. And somebody said, well, prove it. And I said, well, prove it how? Is become a great violinist. I said, no, I can't do that because I can't have the dexterity. I can bring back the motivation to be a violinist, but you want me to prove something in a hurry, pick something where I don't need dexterity. So somebody said photography, become a photographer. And I said, okay, that's different. Let's see what I can do. I didn't know the first thing about photography. This is some time ago, long before digital. So I bought a camera. No, before I bought a camera, rather, I went to my meditative level, and I took the first, what I now call quantum jump. And my intention was to go to a universe where I was the world's greatest photographer. So I'm meditating, my eyes are closed, and I'm using this daydreaming mechanism. And I thought I was just daydreaming because all of a sudden I saw a person with like a velvet hood over his head leaning over a camera. It was that old-fashioned box camera, where the picture is upside down and you're covered with a velvet to keep the light out so you could see it. So I couldn't see his face, but it was me. I knew it was me because that's where I went. And I said, I want to learn how to be a photographer. What can I do? And I very clearly heard the words, take a lot of pictures. I said, well, that's no advice. Anybody can do that. Tell me something else. Take a lot of pictures, and that was it. Didn't hear anything else. All right, so I'll take a lot of pictures. So I got my camera. I bought a camera, and I take a lot of pictures, and I lay them out, and I had a lot of pictures, meaning nothing. Didn't work. Well, I got to do it again. So I go back, and I see the same guy. I meditate. And I said, hey, I took a lot of pictures, but, none of them are really good, really great or anything. Plant yourself. What do you mean, plant yourself? That don't make sense. And he waves his hand at me to goodbye. And that was it. I got like 5 words out of him. Take a lot of pictures and plant yourself. None of it meant anything to me. So I got a camera. I'm in San Diego. I figure, the heck with it. I'll go to the marina, and I'll take a lot of pictures there because they got some beautiful scenery in the San Diego marina. And I'm climbing on some rocks to get a better perspective of this scene that I want to take. And as I'm climbing on the rocks, they're a little slippery. So I take my feet and I jam them down. And as I'm doing that, I'm thinking, gee, I'm planting myself. I wonder if that's what this guy meant. So I keep my feet in one spot, and I take a lot of pictures, turning myself into a fulcrum so that I'm not moving. I take the camera and I go all the way to the left, and I take a lot of pictures all the way down. I took 130 pictures, figuring one of them has got to be good. I go to a 1-hour place and I have them develop the pictures, and now I'm taking them and I'm laying them out on the bed to see which is the best one. But as I'm laying them out, I see I don't have 100 pictures. I have one picture. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And it was absolutely startling. I mean, it wasn't just a picture. It was like a museum piece. So I bought a foam core board, and I stuck them all on the board. And it started a new career. After that, my pictures wound up in museums. I've sold the first photograph I sold, I got $1,000 for it. So they are unusual. And I started thinking, that had to be a coincidence. I mean, I just accidentally took a lot of pictures, and I turned myself into something that I wasn't. Then next place I went to was Ireland. I took a lot of pictures there. I had a lot of pictures from there, and Greece, and all over Europe. I decided maybe I can always do that. I'm going to do something that I know I can't do, and that's art. Art is totally beyond me. So I visited my great art self. I took a jump to my art self. I got advice from him. I won't go through all the details of that. This was more detailed. This guy was talking to me. Some of my doppelgangers, as we call these twin selves, some of them talk to me, some of them don't. This guy talked to me, almost gave me lessons. I've never had an art lesson, but I bought some brushes, I bought some paint. I can't describe the work because all of a sudden I'm an artist. And I got that from jumps. So I decided about this time that, I better teach this. This is something that everybody should know about. So I started doing seminars in quantum jumping. And I noticed the one thing, that even when people didn't feel that they were really in another universe, they were getting something out of it, because what it was giving them was the confidence to do the things that they wouldn't do before. Like there was one woman who came to one of my seminars who cleaned houses. She wanted to get out of it desperately. She didn't want to clean houses anymore. Her husband had another business, and she wanted to be as successful as her husband, who was moderately successful. He had a cleaning business of some sort. She goes to a twin self who, it's a decorator of houses, and she gets advice from this person to go to real estate people, tell them that she'll redecorate the house without costing anything to the person. She'll use the furniture that's there, the pictures that are there, accoutrements that are there, and just rearrange it, because she's very talented that way. And anyway, she turned that into a major business just by doing that. There was another woman who had a problem with some real estate that she owned. She says, "Well, how can a quantum jump help me with selling real estate?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Take a look. May help, it may not. Maybe it'll give you some inspiration to do something you didn't do." She takes a jump. She's got an apartment unit. It was a high-rise in the Midwest somewhere. She takes a quantum jump, and like I got the advice of plant yourself, she gives the advice, give them free beer. What was that advice again? She says, give them free beer. I says, well, let's analyze that. That doesn't make much sense. So what kind of a place do you have? And she tells me I think it was like a 6-story building. And I says, well, where'd you get the idea of giving free beer? She says, well, the place that I'm in, it used to be a brewery. We redid it. As a matter of fact, it's called the brewery. Oh, well, that's where the idea of free beer comes from. So we started talking, and she says, how about if I put a keg of beer in the basement, and I tell people if ever they want beer, there's free beer in the basement. So anyway, she puts an ad in the paper where everybody's got units for rent. She's got units for rent, free beer for the rest of your life. So the ads are catching attention. She rented everything.
Wow.
That she put in from free beer. That stick to my mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, what we're doing here is talking about manifest everything now, and I know that so many of our listeners, they have things that they truly want to manifest in life, but they just feel like they can't figure out how to make it work. So how is it possible? Can you explain this a little bit more, to manifest a promotion or become financially free or find your soulmate? So how do we do this? Okay,
here's what I think is happening. First of all, there's, this big thing is the law of attraction, What is the thing that causes attraction? We know scientifically, in the world of physics, we know that mass attracts, M-A-S-S, mass. The greater the mass, the more attraction. The moon has a tremendous attraction on the Earth. So much attraction that the moon's attraction literally lifts the ocean at a weight that's beyond comprehension. And the moon has a certain attraction for other things too. This we know. Now, everything attracts. A person that weighs 300 pounds has a greater attraction than a person who weighs 80 pounds. Now, it's so slight that it's not noticeable. But a fruit fly has an attraction, and a mosquito has an attraction. But they're minute. So we know that mass attracts. Now, mentally, there is no mass. But we do have a rhythm in our mental thinking. We know this for a fact because our thinking, our attitude can change. As an example, something that's very easy to understand is your heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Your heart normally beats, let's say, 60, 70 times a minute. When you're fearful, it starts beating faster. When you're relaxed, it beats a bit slower. So this frequency is what I call a rhythm. It's an energy. Now, everybody is involved with this particular energy. Now, the energy of a successful person is different from that of a failure. Now, what is it? Now, I mentioned mass, and mass attracts. We know that on the physical level. Now, on the mental level, we know that the mind can affect the frequency of the heart. Now, that's something that's obvious. The only reason I'm talking about the heart has nothing to do with this, but the heart is an example that we can see. We know that if we're fearful, the heart rate changes. We're relaxed, it changes. We're anxious, it changes. Not only the heart rate changes, but the brainwave frequency changes. You may have heard of theta, alpha, beta, a difference with brainwave frequencies. All this is a rhythm. Now, this rhythm causes an attraction in a like rhythm. Like begets like. But then again, there's also the negative positive response. These are some of the things that we teach in quantum jumping. But I'm going to go through it so that people can understand, because I do like to simplify things. Now, with the law of attraction, what people don't realize is that you can attract the negative as well as the positive. Sometimes people work with the law of attraction and say, nothing is working, things are worse. Things are worse because you're attracting the wrong things. You're still attracting. Attraction is due to the mass of the mind. The mind's mass attracts mental things. Mental things can be created to a certain degree. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back into quantum jumping. There are many people who can't imagine themselves successful. You can be very successful in one area and total flop in another. There are many multimillionaires who kill themselves because they're depressed, they're unhappy with their lives. So money is not necessarily the answer. Things are not necessarily the answer either. Attitude is. If you were to ask me what the one thing that is the key, let's say, to a successful life of good health and well-being, I would say it's attitude, above everything else, above everything. So getting back to this law of attraction, if you feel that you're undeserving, and now there's a reason for a person to feel undeserving. I'm going through a lot of concepts here. When you feel guilty about something that you've done in the past, it places limitations on you. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't feel guilty about anything. Well, you don't know whether you do or not. Most of the programming that a person goes through happens in the first octave of life, from the time of birth to the age of 7. That's where most of the programming goes. And when you're that age, you accept everything. You're like a sponge. You don't judge anything. Everything comes in as it is. And many things that you do then that you regret later on that you wouldn't do. Of course, you wouldn't do the things when you're 20. You wouldn't do the things that you did when you were 6 or 7. You have no regrets either. They're in the subconscious. These are things that are, let's say, we call them sins, in that a sin is a goal, let's say, that is set by another person. Somebody tells you you shall do this or you shall not do this. You can't go out without your coat on. You'll catch a cold. Is the simple one. Almost every parent has said that to a child. So if you go out without your coat, you feel that you've sinned. For the Catholic faith, you couldn't eat meat on a Friday. And if you happened to eat meat on a Friday, that was a sin. That was a religious sin. I'm not talking about those sins. Anytime anybody tells you something to do and you don't do it, you feel that you've sinned. Anytime they tell you something that you shouldn't do, when you do it, you feel like you've sinned. Along with sin comes guilt. Now, all guilt is the compulsion to repeat the act correctly. In other words, if you did something wrong, then you go back and you do it right, sin's gone. That's what guilt is for. Punishment, it's a trio. Punishment comes along if you don't correct it, if you didn't correct it. Now, most of these things are in your inner conscious, so they're uncorrectable. Punishment comes in the form of limitations. You've been a bad boy, you've been a bad girl, you only deserve so much out of life, and on and on and on. Limitations in all areas of your life. This all comes without our realizing it, because all these things are in the subconscious. So if you're limiting in some area of your life, there's no point in even trying for it, because subconsciously you'll be saying, we can't do that. Now quantum jumping comes in.
Okay. In
quantum jumping, you have no limitations in one of your doppelgangers. You have an infinite number of doppelgangers. Infinite, meaning whatever you can imagine, you are. You're the worst failure and you're the greatest success and everything in between. You're royalty, you're a peasant, whatever you can imagine. You're in every profession. You've done everything. Now, if you want to do something that you've never been able to do because of some limitation, some limiting factor in your life, you go to the doppelganger who is not limited. Your doppelganger isn't limited. He's already successful. She's already done the thing that you want to do. So you visit that doppelganger and you do two things. Number one, you watch that doppelganger. Now, sometimes your doppelganger gives you advice. The stories that I mentioned, the doppelganger was telling you things. Now, here's another way to use the doppelganger. You go, you visit your doppelganger, who is successful, let's say an artist. I used art as an example. So you want to be an artist, you know the first thing about painting. So you see yourself as an artist, but you watch yourself from an objective point of view. An objective point of view meaning you're watching yourself do it. So it's you. It's you doing the thing that you want to do. You watch that. That's the objective. Now to get the rhythm of the person. See, this is what you can bring back to this reality with you. You can't bring back the ability, but you can bring back the rhythm, the energy. That you can bring back. And the way that you bring it back is, now that you've seen what your doppelganger or your twin self is doing, now you merge with that doppelganger. Here's the key. Now, what do I mean by merge? Suddenly you're not watching your twin self paint, you're painting. You've merged with that person. Now when you're painting, you're getting the rhythm, the success, the unlimited portion of you that could have been. This is a you that could have been because your doppelganger in another universe did not have the programming that you had. Might have had the same parents, but maybe the time that you had the bad program because you were home alone, in your doppelganger's case, he or she wasn't home alone during that instance. Because everything that starts a problem starts as a seed. A very, very small, insignificant thing. I often tell the story, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a caterpillar in a park in Whittier, California. The caterpillar is wandering on the grass and comes to a leaf. It can't crawl over the leaf because it's the position of the leaf. So the caterpillar makes a left turn, comes to a bench, crawls up on the bench, and just as the caterpillar comes to the bench, a man comes and sits down and squashes the caterpillar. Feels gunk on his pants. He wipes his pants off. He's got to have them cleaned. So he goes home, changes his pants, goes to a cleaner, leaves the pants there. When he goes back to pick up his pants, he meets a lady who's picking up a blouse. They get acquainted. He asks her out for coffee. They have some coffee. They start dating. They fall in love. They get married. They have a child. The child grows up. He's pretty intelligent. He becomes a lawyer. He goes into politics. And because a caterpillar hit a leaf, Richard Nixon became president of the United States. Now, this is the way all things work. Everything works with some little insignificant thing. Some insignificant thing that sets your life to where you are today. Now, if you want to change it, you go to see this doppelganger, this twin self of yours in another universe, who doesn't have that programming. And you bring back the rhythm. Now, does that mean you'll be successful every single time? No, it doesn't. I've done it very often where I'm not successful. I tried it once with tap dancing. I almost fell on the floor so it didn't work. So what happens when it didn't work that time? So I do something else. One thing that I have to tell you, because this is something that astounds even me. I've done so many things successfully, but I decided to try to play the piano. I don't know how to play the piano. I know there are 7 notes, but if you were to ask me what a chord is, I don't know what a chord is. I don't know how to read music. So I went to my doppelganger, and I brought back the rhythm, like I said. I have a piano, one of those pianos that you get at Costco, and I fool around on it with one finger. I picked out one thing, and I'm recording everything, because the piano I got records. Now, I'm going to play something for about 5 seconds for you. Now, this is me playing, and I couldn't do this again to save my life. I don't know how I did it the first time. Here's a song so you can hear what I'm talking about. This is me playing the piano. Okay, that's enough of that.
Wow, that's amazing, though. Let me ask you this, because you say that, you couldn't recreate that again.
Not to say...
Right. Are there ways that we can bring things back, bring the rhythms back, as you say, and then fully integrate them so that, it can help us manifest the career that we desire, or all of that? Is there a way
I can. Now, I can play other songs on the piano. I can't play that one again. But because I can't read music, every time I play a song, it's unique.
Okay.
And I make them up as I go along because I don't know any songs.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
I play a song, it's a brand new song. No, I didn't mean that that's the only thing that I can play. I meant that I can't play that again. Maybe somebody can write it and they can play it, but right. I can't. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you said that there are some new sort of twists on quantum jumping that you wanted to share with us. What are some of the things that you would say are the new twists?
There's so much that we get into in quantum jumping. I like to simplify things. So it's not, quantum jumping is not only going into other universes, it's understanding the simplicity of things. Relationships, as an example. There are seminars written on that are presented on relationships that cost thousands of dollars, and I can give you the key to relationships in a couple of words. A relationship is based on needs. If you fill the needs of another person and they fill your needs, you got a good relationship, period. You can't do any more than that. So right. Now once you understand that, you can ask the right question. The right question is, what are my partner's needs? To say, let's discuss our relationship is meaningless because it's an abstraction. It's just a word. But to say, let's talk about our needs. Nobody does that.
Right.
But if two people sit down and say, let's talk about, I need this. I need you to do this. I need you to stop smoking in the living room or whatever. I need this. And what do you need? Now, you find that your needs have a hierarchy. So some needs are a 1 or 2, and if you get them, fine. If you don't get them, it's okay, too. It's not a big deal. But some of your needs are a 10, and you must have them. If you have a need that's a 10 and your partner isn't filling that need, you got a problem. Well, once you understand that, there's the key to relationships.
Right.
We do this with fear. We do this with love. Love is probably the most misunderstood word on the face of the planet. There's more atrocities, more killings, more murders committed in the name of love. Nobody understands what love is. Let me give you a definition of love that will allow you to understand it. Love is a positive viewpoint. Now, that takes a little bit of explanation. But once you understand that, now you can use quantum jumping to utilize that knowledge. What do I mean by love as a positive viewpoint? That encompasses all love. That encompasses the love of God and the love of a cheese sandwich, and everything in between. Love thy neighbor is incomprehensible. What do you mean? I don't like him. It smells. But see the positive aspects of your neighbor, that I can understand. Well, does my neighbor have any positive aspects? Everybody has some. If you see the positives in a person, then you're exhibiting love. I love to use the story of this is just a made up story. Young couple get married, and they're totally in love. They're now on a scale of 1 to 100. They're at the 100, meaning they can see no negatives whatever. No negatives whatever, no matter what the other person does. They've been married for 2 days. The young woman is in the bathroom brushing her teeth, and she's drooling, as a lot of people do when they brush their teeth, and she's got on an old raggedy bathrobe with holes in it, and her new husband looks at her through the bedroom door, and he smiles and says, wow, look at that. She even looks good when she's drooling. And I love that bathrobe. It's got holes in it, and it's all tattered, but she wears it like a queen. And she's got the cutest walk. She hops every now and then. I love it. And time goes by. And now love is no longer at the 100 end of the scale. It's dropped down to about 90. He's still very much in love, but a few negatives have come in. And sweetheart, when you brush your teeth, would you mind closing the bathroom door because, you drool and it don't look good. And I wish you'd get a new bathrobe. We can afford something better than that. He's beginning to see the negatives. And time goes by. And now he's down to about maybe 75. He's still in love with her, but it's settling down. He's seeing more and more negatives. And sweetheart, don't get mad, but I've enrolled you in a charm school. You have the craziest walk. You hop a little bit. That really shows you what love is. But the only individual who's at the 100 mark is an infant.
Right.
Your own infant, or your grandbaby, or your baby. No matter what they do. Oh, look, honey, it's green today. It doesn't matter what they do. You love it. Outside of that, there's always qualifications. Now you can really understand love. Love of God, you can only see 100-degree positive aspects. Love and hate are the same thing. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if love is a positive viewpoint, that means that hate would have to be a negative viewpoint. But they're both viewpoints, so they're both on the same scale. That's why it's so easy to go from love to hate. Not so easy to go from hate to love, but possible once you understand the concept. Now, how can you use quantum jumping here? If you have somebody that's bothering you, and you jump to a universe where the things that bother you about that person don't exist, you bring back the rhythm of that, then you change your attitude toward that person immediately. And the reverse is true, too. Sometimes people don't see the good in you, so you go to a universe where they do. But you can use quantum jumping in so many different ways. Also, here's a concept I'm just going to throw by you. It'll give you a better understanding of time. there is a past. We all know the past, but the past doesn't exist. The past only exists in our memory. And there is no present. Now doesn't exist. What I just said is already in the past. So it's a flow. There is no now. In quantum jumping, this one gives you a lot of food for thought here, what I'm about to say. Now, in the infinity of quantum jumping, everything is now. Because you can go to any time. You can go to the year 3000, or you can go to prehistoric times. It all exists. You don't have to go to a twin self of yours that's the same age as you. You can go to a twin self of yours that's 20 years older than you, or that's a child, or prehistoric. It all exists. It's like an infinite number of photographs. They're all still photographs. They don't come to life. They don't turn into a motion picture until they're observed. As soon as you observe them, they come to life. But everything is now in the quantum jumping world, in an infinite world. Now, what I've said in the past hour or so, I've just touched on what we do in quantum jumping.
Now, is it really complicated to do? I mean, I know you call this the lazy man's guide to enlightenment, so I'm assuming that it's actually not that complicated.
Well, is it complicated to daydream yourself the world's greatest ice skater?
Nope.
All you have to do is think you're the world's greatest ice skater. It's as complicated as that. It couldn't be simpler.
So that's why you call it the lazy man's guide to enlightenment. I love that.
That's exactly what it is.
I know a lot of people listening, this might be, they're wrapping their heads around it. I know we spoke about you doing sort of a really quick meditation with us. Is there something you could share with us and sort of walk us through just to give us a feel for it?
Sure. I can walk a person through a quick meditation because everything starts with a meditation. Now, why is that? Because when you're meditating, you're concentrating on one thing only. That's the only reason we use meditation. Meditation is a jumping off place. When you're meditating, you're not thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. You're not thinking that the rent is due. You're not thinking about will the money come in, will the money not come in. You're not thinking about your boss. You're not thinking about anything. If you are, you're not meditating. There are thousands of thoughts that are constantly flitting through our minds, one after the other after the other. You smell something, reminds you of something. You see something, it reminds. Always, everything and changes. One thing changes, another thing changes. That doesn't happen during meditation. That's why we use meditation. When you're meditating, and I recommend just a flat meditation for people who have a problem with stress, to meditate at least once a day. For how long? You can meditate for 3 minutes. It'll help you. If you can do it for 15 minutes, all the better. I don't recommend that. I mean, I have friends who do. They call me the American monk because I used to be a monk. But that means, a monk can meditate for 8 hours. But that's their life. They're doing it because they're going into the spirit. Not religion. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spiritual thing.
Right.
So the way we use the meditation process is simply as a jumping off place so that we're concentrating on what we're doing. And we're not thinking about the things that bother us. That's the idea of meditating. So what I can do is walk you through a quick meditation now. And those who are listening, just find a comfortable place. Just relax. And we'll do it right now.
Perfect.
Close your eyes and take a deep breath. And as you exhale, mentally repeat and visualize the number 3 times. 3, 3, 3. That's fine. Now take another deep breath. And as you exhale, mentally repeat and visualize the number 2 3 times. 2, 2, 2. That's fine. Very good. Now once again, take a deep breath. 1, 1, 1. relax. Just imagine now that you're on top of a stairway, and there are 10 steps. And as you walk down the steps, each time you take a step, feel going deeper into this relaxed, meditative state. Just relax. Just concentrate on my voice and the steps. Just imagine you're standing at the top of a stairway. Just imagine that. Create it. Say to yourself, I'm at the top step. You're at the top step. Now take a step down to the 9th step. Another step down to the 8th step. As you step down, feel going deeper in the 7th step, the 6th step, the 5th step, the 4th step, the 3rd step. Relax as you go deeper and deeper. Then the 2nd step, and now the 1st step, and now you're at the bottom of the stairway with the last step down. As you're at the bottom of the stairway, just relax. Just imagine that you're in a small hallway. At the end of that hallway is a door. That's the door to infinity. When you open that door, you will find yourself wherever it is that is your intention to go, your intention to be. Right now, you're quite comfortable just standing in the hallway and relaxing. Just imagine now that you're totally relaxed, totally relaxed. And now I'll give you a benefit. On the other side of that door is a great healing light, a healing light. And if you are in any pain at all, you'll notice that this healing light will eliminate that pain, will lessen it, diminish it, and in most instances, resolve it and take it away. So imagine yourself walking to the door. Imagine your hand is on the doorknob. Open the door, step through the door into a light. Now imagine now that you're in a bright, white, all-encompassing light. The light surrounds you. The light is a healing light. All of the beneficial energies. The light removes all problems from your body, restores the vigor, refreshes your cells, recharges your cells. Your cells, the sodium-potassium balance comes into perfection. You feel invigorated. Just allow the light to do its job. Now step back into the hallway. Close the door. Relax. Now I'm going to count from 1 to 3. At the count of 3, your eyes will open. You'll be wide awake, feeling wonderfully refreshed, feeling all your vigor has come back. Your energy is restored. You feel wonderful. 1, 2, 3. Eyes open, wide awake. Okay, that was just a kind of a toe dip for
That's
you.
fantastic. Now, is that a situation where, through that door might be one of your twin selves, so to speak?
Exactly, yes. This time I didn't do it because we didn't get that far into it. But that healing light was very important. And some of the people who are listening to this, there'll be some remarkable healings take place.
Wow.
I would be surprised if there weren't. Depending on how many people are listening, you will get a lot of response to that.
Wow. Well, that's now that actually brings me to my next question, which is, You've shared with us some of the extraordinary experiences you've had, and even the story of the woman with the give them free beer, which I love. If you were to think of sort of the one story of someone who has applied what you teach, or one or two stories where you were even knocked out by what they experienced by quantum jumping, what are one or two of the stories you can think of?
Well, one thing comes to mind was a fellow in Switzerland who I found out later was going to commit suicide. One of his good friends took him to the class. I found out later what his problem was. But he had been tortured in Bosnia, apparently to the point where that's all he could think about. He couldn't think about anything else. In something like, well, a minute. Let's say 3 minutes. I don't know what the time was. It was very short because I did it in front of the class. I took him through what we just went through, similar, except instead of the white light, he went through the experience of being tortured, except there was a lot of apologetic, let's say, information going on between him and the torturer. So I won't get into what had happened because it would be different with everyone anyway. It was a Saturday and Sunday. That was Saturday. Sunday, the guy came in. Nobody even recognized him. He looked so different. He was a totally different person. It was gone. And
wow.
I spoke to his friend about a month later, and he told me the guy can't even imagine himself wanting to take his life. That's when he told me. He said, he was suicidal when he came to the class. Another one that comes to mind, this happened in Germany. A woman comes to the class with some friends of hers, and she couldn't look up. And she comes to me and she says, would this help me to look up? I said, what do you mean you can't look up? My neck bothers me. What it was, I subsequently found out, when she was 3 or 4 years old, she had a tracheotomy. And the doctor told her, if you look up, she had the tube in her throat. He said, if you look up, you'll die. This is what she remembered the doctor telling her. Well, she didn't look up for 32 years because she was 36 when she came to the class.
Wow. So
I figured, well, nothing is going to help her because her muscles must have atrophied by now. There's no way she's going to look up. She could see the ceiling, but she would have to, twist her body. She could look down, she could look to the side, but she couldn't look up. So we did a jump. Now, I have to admit, I didn't expect anything from it. I just wanted to get rid of her because she's in front of the class. I'm using her as a volunteer to show people how this works. And I was looking for somebody that had a headache or something, something really simple. So I work with her no more than 5 minutes. None of these things take much more than that. I said, okay, how is it now? And she takes her head and she starts tilting it back, and she's like, fighting it, but she looks up and she starts crying. I mean, blubbering, embarrassing. And she's looking up and twisting her head around, and she came with a couple of more people, and they're crying also. All I know is what she told me. I didn't know if she was faking it or not. But with all that crying, I had to believe that something was going on. And her friend said, no, they've known her, for years. She's never been able to look up before.
Wow.
I've been doing this so long, and I've done it for thousands of people, that there's all kinds of stories similar to this where people have had instant changes. There's no understanding what's happening. How? I don't know.
And the exciting thing is that what you're saying is it's instant, and it sounds like it's because you're accessing the rhythm of that twin self. Once
you get into that, apparently you get out of the mode that's kept you in one place. Let me give you an idea about rhythm so you can better understand it. Now, this seemingly has nothing whatever to do with what I'm talking about, but in a way it does. If you were to walk and tap yourself on the thigh as you walk, let's say you're walking slow. So you're walking slow, you tap yourself on the thigh. That's your rhythm for that walk. Now, you have a rhythm for everything. That's your rhythm for that walk. Now, if you were to walk faster, you would tap faster because that's your rhythm for a faster walk. Now, if you were to walk faster and tap to the slower rhythm, you'd be confused. You might even fall over. You can't do it. That's the rhythm. Now, I'll give you another example. Think of a food that you like. I like an apple, let's say. So I'm thinking of an apple, and I tap. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my rhythm for an apple. Now, you have a rhythm for an apple, too. Everybody's got a different rhythm. You may like apples, you may hate them. But whatever, that's my rhythm for an apple. Now, let me think of a food that I don't like. I don't like brains. You know, some people eat brains. So I'm thinking about brains. That's my rhythm for brains.
Right.
They have a rhythm. Now, let's say that I didn't want to like apples. Now, if I were to think of apples, tap out the brain rhythm, all of a sudden I don't like apples. Instantaneous. Everybody who's listening, you try it with something and you'll see how it works.
Wow.
When I do a weight control class, occasionally, I don't do many of them, I tell people one of the reasons that you're overweight is because you're eating too many calories. So what food is your nemesis? If it's bread, all right, I'll get you so that you don't like bread. I did that once in San Francisco. You know, some things stand out. I was showing a fella. He says, meat is my nemesis. I said, what do you mean meat? He says, I love meat. He said, I eat steak 3 times a day. You eat steak for breakfast? He says, yeah.
Wow.
I said, well, what do you want to eat for breakfast? He said, I want to eat oatmeal, but I hate it. So I says to him, okay, what's your rhythm for oatmeal? And he taps out a rhythm for oatmeal. I said, what's your rhythm for steak? And he taps out a rhythm for steak. I said, okay, think about steak and tap out your oatmeal rhythm. It's okay. As you do that, yeah. Okay, I said, now think about oatmeal and tap out your steak rhythm. You do that? Yeah, okay, all right, that's it. He says, well, what else do I have to do? I said, you just did it. So this is on Saturday. Sunday morning, he comes into the hotel. He says, you'll never guess what I had for dinner last night. He says, oatmeal.
That's amazing. So actually what I want to do, that's the perfect jumping off point, no pun intended. There's obviously so much to this. Even though it's this simple process, there's so much to it. So I know I asked you to come up with a special offer for everyone. I encourage everybody to go check it out so you can experience this for yourself because it's really amazing and surprisingly simple. So Burt, can you let us know what they'll find there?
They'll find a variety of modules that encompass just about everything that could possibly happen in life that will help people to better themselves and to understand this law of attraction better. You know what I said before, that attraction works both ways. When you attract the negative, you're still attracting. We ought to learn the law of repelling along with the law of attraction. We do deal with repelling things also. But we deal with abundance, with success, with so many things, with fear, with faith, with solutions, overcoming problems, also instant healings with something I call the dwaddle. It's something that, well, you have to experience it. But I've had so many successes with all of these things, and I don't hold anything back. When you go through the quantum jumping site, you're going to think, well, this is nonsense. This can't be. Well, it is. It is. I've been doing these things for so many years. When you see the picture of me, that's me taken on my 83rd birthday. I'm always looking forward to things. I'm working on something new right now. I'm looking forward to the time when I'm 90. I want to do something really big then. What is it? It's attitude. And this is one of the things that you learn in quantum jumping. It's all there. I don't hold anything back.
And obviously, from the stories, it's so clear that you don't hold anything back. I appreciate that, and we can obviously count on that. Second of all, you can even just feel in talking with you how much possibility there is for all of us once we start accessing these alternate universes to get that information that's not limited from our twin selves. So that's exciting. It seems like from everything you're saying, this isn't something where, the results are going to be a million years from now. As you said, everything in quantum jumping and quantum physics is now. So you're talking about pretty instant results. Am I right?
Always, yes. When I tell people if it can be done in 6 months, it can be done in 6 minutes, it can be done in 6 seconds.
Wow.
And most of the things that I teach you can do in 30 seconds right now. Boom.
That's amazing. You won't even believe the things that you're able to access and suddenly do. I mean, you've heard so many examples of it today, and Burt, you've shared so much knowledge and just insight with us that I so appreciate that. Is there anything any final thoughts you want to share with everyone before we go?
Only something that I said before. The main thing that you want to have control over is your attitude. Attitude is everything. Examine your attitude. Remember what I said about love being a positive viewpoint. If you see the positives in things, the negatives are there. You can find negatives in everything. But why bother with negatives? See the positives in things, and you'll have a better life.
I love that. So everybody listen to what Burt just said, because it's so powerful and it's so important when it comes to manifesting everything you desire. So I can tell you one thing that's the key, and I so agree with that. Look at your attitude, examine your attitude, and choose a positive attitude. I think that's wonderful, and thank you so much for sharing that and everything else with us, Burt. You're just a joy to speak with, and I so appreciate you and look forward to the next time we speak.
Well, thank you, Kristen. It's been a pleasure.
It has been for me, too. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Ah
Bye.